There are moments in this war that stop you and force you to ask whether you are watching a genuine diplomatic breakthrough, or whether you are watching the most powerful man in the world describe something he cannot explain to people who cannot verify it, about a country that is simultaneously firing missiles at its neighbors. Tuesday was one of those moments. Donald Trump was standing in the Oval Office of the White House, speaking to reporters after the swearing-in ceremony for his new Homeland Security Secretary, when he said something that no American president has ever said about a country their military is actively bombing. He said Iran gave us a present. He said the present arrived today. He said it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. He said it was not nuclear-related. He said it was oil and gas-related. He said it was related to the Strait of Hormuz. He said the Iranians told him it was coming, and then it actually arrived, and that is how he knows he is dealing with the right people. And then he refused to tell anyone what it was. No details, no confirmation from the other side, no verification from any intelligence official on record. The President of the United States said Iran sent America a mystery gift worth a tremendous amount of money connected to the world's most important oil shipping route, and then said he was not going to tell you what it was. In 26 days of the most consequential American military campaign since Iraq, nothing has moved the story faster or raised more questions than those 4 words. They gave us a present. Let us be precise about exactly what Trump said, because the specific language he used tells you something important about both what he knows and what he is choosing not to say. He was asked in the Oval Office who Witkoff and Kushner had been negotiating with to end the war. He started by describing Iran's leadership situation. He said, "We killed all their leadership, and then they met to choose new leaders, and we killed all of them. And now we have a new group, and we can easily do that. But let's see how they turn out." Then, unprompted, he shifted to the gift. He said they are going to make a deal. And they did something yesterday that was amazing, actually. He said they gave us a present, and the present arrived today, and it was a very big present worth a tremendous amount of money. He said he was not going to tell anyone what the present was, but that it was very significant and oil and gas related. When a reporter pressed him and asked if it was related to the Strait of Hormuz, Trump confirmed it directly. He said it was related to the flow, to the strait. He then said something that is arguably the most revealing line in his entire statement. He said they gave it to us, and they said they were going to give it. So that meant one thing to me: we are dealing with the right people. They are the only ones that could have done it. And later in the same appearance, Trump said something that should be front-page news everywhere. He said Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth did not want the war to be settled this quickly. He said Pete did not want it to be settled. He gave no further details. The Secretary of Defense of the United States did not want this war to end as fast as it apparently is ending, and the president said it like it was a minor footnote. Now let us examine what analysts and intelligence reporters have identified as the most likely candidates for what this gift actually was. The Iran International News outlet, which has some of the best sourcing on internal Iranian decision-making, reported that Iran has been charging oil tankers for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. According to Bloomberg and Lloyd's List intelligence reporting, Iran was charging around $2 million per tanker to transit through a corridor it controls between the islands of Larak and Keshem, which run through Iranian territorial waters. This tolling system gave Iran something it had never had before in this conflict: a revenue stream from the very waterway it was using as its primary weapon against the global economy. The gift Trump is describing almost certainly involves a change in that system, either a partial opening of that corridor to a broader category of ships without requiring the tolling arrangement, or a commitment to allow a specific large volume of oil and gas to flow through the strait without Iranian interference. Something happened on Monday that Trump describes as amazing. Something oil and gas related, something connected to the flow through the strait, something worth a tremendous amount of money, and something that only the people Iran's new leadership put in charge of the negotiations could have authorized and delivered. To understand why this gift matters so much to Trump strategically, you have to understand what the strait numbers actually look like right now, and what even a partial opening would mean for the American economy and for Trump's political standing. Before the war started on February 28th, more than 100 ships transited the Strait of Hormuz every single day. As of the most recent maritime intelligence tracking, only 21 tankers have transited the route since the war began across 26 days. That is less than one ship per day compared to more than 100 per day before. Traffic in the Strait, according to Windward Maritime Intelligence, remained 97% below average. 15 million barrels of crude oil and 5 million barrels of refined petroleum products are stranded inside the Persian Gulf every single day, unable to get out. That oil represents the energy supply of Asia. Japan, South Korea, India, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Countries that receive between 45 and 80% of their energy through this single 21-mile-wide passage. And every day those barrels do not move, the global price of oil stays elevated. Brent crude has been above $100 since the war began. Goldman Sachs says it could stay there through 2027. American gas prices are at their highest since October 2022. Every dollar of oil price increase that stays elevated costs American families $300 million a day at the pump. If Iran's gift involved allowing even a meaningful fraction of those stranded ships to begin moving, the economic value to global energy markets would be, in Trump's own language, worth a tremendous amount of money. The political dimension of this gift is just as important as the economic one. A recent CBS News poll found that 62% of Americans disapprove of how Trump is handling this war. The war was launched without a plan to manage the predictable oil price consequences of closing Hormuz. Gas prices have risen nearly $1 a gallon since February 28th. Mortgage rates are climbing because the Federal Reserve froze rate cuts in response to war-driven inflation. Grocery bills are rising because energy costs feed through the entire food supply chain. The midterm elections are coming in November. Trump's advisors privately estimate that elevated oil prices triggered by the war could linger for months. If Iran's gift was a signal that Hormuz might begin to partially reopen, that single development would do more for Trump's domestic political standing than any military victory announced in a Pentagon press briefing. Oil prices would fall. Gas prices would follow weeks later. Consumer sentiment would improve. The argument that the war is being won and is ending would gain credibility with the 62% of Americans who currently do not believe it. This is why Trump described the gift the way he did. Not with military language, not with strategic language, with economic language, worth a tremendous amount of money. Oil and gas related to the flow, to the Strait. Here is where Iran's perspective on this same moment becomes impossible to ignore. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, the man American and Israeli officials identified as Iran's chief negotiator in these talks and the man who publicly denied any negotiations were taking place, posted something remarkable on social media the same day Trump was describing the gift. Ghalibaf said Iranian officials are closely monitoring developments in the paper oil market. He used that specific phrase, paper oil market, which refers to oil futures and derivatives trading as opposed to physical crude. He said we are aware of what is happening in the paper oil market, including the firms hired to influence oil futures. He said we see the broader jawboning campaign. And he said, but let us see if they can turn that into actual fuel at the pump, or maybe even print gas molecules. This is the man who denied the talks. This is the man who called Trump's claims fake news. And on the same day, Trump is describing a gift from Iran worth a tremendous amount of money related to the Strait. This man is publicly signaling that he understands oil futures trading, that he knows someone is trying to influence energy markets, and that he questions whether any of it will translate into actual physical oil reaching actual consumers. Ghalibaf is not sounding like a man who just gave Donald Trump a gift. He is sounding like a man who is watching someone else tell a story about his country and choosing his words with extreme precision. There is a deeper strategic context that makes the gift story even more complex to evaluate. Iran has spent the past 2 weeks systematically positioning itself as what analysts have started calling the Strait of Hormuz gatekeeper. Rather than simply blocking the strait, Iran has been selectively allowing ships from countries it considers neutral or friendly to transit. A Turkish ship was allowed through after docking at an Iranian port. 2 Indian-flagged LPG carriers were allowed to pass after Indian Prime Minister Modi personally called Iranian President Pezeshkian. Pakistani-flagged vessels have transited. Chinese-owned vessels have moved through the Iranian-controlled corridor. What Iran has created is not a blockade in the traditional military sense. It is a permission system. Every country that wants its ships to pass through Hormuz has to come to Tehran and ask. The Strait has become a diplomatic instrument that gives Iran leverage over every energy-importing nation on Earth simultaneously. Iran's strategic thinkers, according to Al Jazeera analysis, are increasingly framing the strait not just as a weapon, but as a financial and diplomatic asset that could be used to extract compensation, sanctions relief, and broader economic concessions after the war ends. The gift Trump is describing may be a specific opening within that system, an opening that is valuable enough for Trump to describe as worth a tremendous amount of money, but an opening that still leaves Iran in control of the gate. Trump also said something on Tuesday that got less attention than the gift, but that reveals the most honest assessment he has offered of where this war stands. When a reporter asked why Iran would be willing to make a deal after all the fighting, Trump said, "Who wouldn't want to make a deal if you were there? Look, their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their communications are done. That is the biggest problem." He was describing Iran as militarily defeated. And then he said the following about Iran's desire to deal, adding that they want to make a deal very badly. A militarily defeated country that wants a deal very badly, that is simultaneously sending daily missile barrages at Israel, that installed a hardline IRGC loyalist as its new national security chief this week, and that Iran international analysts say has just entered a phase where that new appointment signals a much more aggressive posture rather than a diplomatic opening. Those two pictures do not belong in the same frame. Either Iran is militarily broken and desperate for a deal, in which case the missiles and the new hardline security chief make no sense. Or Iran is not as broken as Trump is describing, in which case the gift and the 15 points of agreement and the claim that they want to deal so badly need to be examined much more carefully. What we know for certain on day 26 of this war is the following. Trump says Iran sent a gift worth a tremendous amount of money related to oil, gas, and the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has not confirmed it. Ghalibaf is tracking oil futures and questioning whether American announcements translate into real energy. A 5-day clock expires on Saturday. J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Kushner, and Witkoff are all described by Trump as involved in negotiations. Pakistan is offering Islamabad as a venue. Iran says it has zero trust in Washington. Pete Hegseth did not want the war settled this fast. Israel says a deal is not tangible right now. And somewhere in that contradiction between a secret gift and daily missiles, between 15 points of agreement and fake news, between a tremendous amount of money and 97% of Hormuz traffic still blocked, the actual outcome of this war is being decided. Saturday is 3 days away. Whatever this gift was, it either opens the door to ending the most consequential energy crisis in modern history, or it was a signal designed to keep Trump from bombing Iran's power plants for 5 more days while the missiles keep flying and the clock runs out. Subscribe right now because Saturday is the deadline, and the next 72 hours are going to determine whether this gift was the beginning of the end of this war or the most expensive piece of diplomatic theater the world has ever seen. And tell me in the comments, what do you think Iran actually gave Trump? Do you think it was a real concession that changes the path of this war? Or do you think Iran is playing a game to buy time while its missiles keep flying?